Hi everyone. In today's video, we will be talking about the VPC peering. So before talking about the VPC peering in details, we will understand why the VPC peering is needed, correct? So just suppose that there are two VPCs, VPC1 and VPC2. You have two applications which are deployed in one server and in the second server, correct? So I hope you understand the VPC1, the public subnet, and the AC2, and all these technical terms. If you don't understand, you can watch out the videos which are available on the channel, and from there you will understand what is the VPC, how it works, and what's the public subnet, and what's the AC2 instances, correct? So for now, just suppose that these are the two VPC, and this is one of the private area where we start working, correct? And this is the second private area where we want to start working, correct? Then we have created the one subnet within this particular block, and then we are deploying one EC2 instance. Here also we are doing the same. Within the public subnet, we are deploying the second EC2 instance. Now, this application, which is deployed on the first server, has to fetch some of the content or some of the data from the second server, which is available there. Or just suppose that these are the two microservices which are deployed on two of the EC2 instances in two VPCs, correct? Or there can be your application on the first VPC and your database in the second VPC, and correct, and then you have to make the connection between your application and your database. So how will you do that? If it's in the different private area, that's the VPC2, then you will not be able to communicate it directly, because if you are able to communicate directly without any connection, making any connection kind of thing, so it's not secured kind of thing, correct? So VPC peering comes into the picture. From there, you will make the connection. It will be the secured connection between these two VPC, so that no one from the outside can communicate in this way directly, correct? So if you have to communicate with any of the VPC, you will establish the connection. You will send the connection request to that second VPC. It will accept that request, and then you will be able to communicate between these two. So VPC peering is one of the concept where you will define that which kind of request and from where request can come to this VPC and this VPC, and that request will be transferred from this one VPC to the second VPC. So that's where the your VPC peering comes into the picture. It just do the peering between these two. It establishes the communication between these two VPC and makes communication between these two. Correct. So we will now jump to the AWS console, and we will try to implement the same, and we'll see what will be the challenges in between that, and how that can be mitigated. Correct. So let's move to the VPC console. Here you can see there is only one VPC, that is your default one, and we will create two VPC here. So let me create. As per the diagram, we are going with the diagram only. So you can see we are creating two VPC, one, two, then two public subnet, then two EC2 instance, and then we will try to establish the connection. So let me create the VPC one here. I will call it as a VPC1, and CIDR I will give it as a 10.0.0.0/16. Name that will be VPC1, and let's create the VPC. Then again I will create one more VPC that we will call it VPC2. So let me call it as a VPC2. I hope it's being recorded. Yes, it's being recorded. Then it will be 11.0.0.0/16. I'm keeping this different CIDR so that there will not be overlapping between these two VPC, correct? Both of them will have the different IP address ranges. So 11.0.0/16 and the name VPC2. Then once we are done with the VPC creation, we have to create the public subnet. Now, when we are dealing with the public subnet, then we have to create these two route tables as well. You understand from the previous videos. So we will go with the creation of the two route tables here. So let me create two route table here, and I will give this name route VPC1. So this is the route table for VPC1. Let me select the VPC1 here. Create route table. Let me create one more route table here. Create route. So I will give the route and the VPC2. That will be the name. So let me select the VPC2 and create route table. So these two route tables we have created. Now we will have to do the subnet association. For that, I will have to create the subnets as well. So let me create the two subnets here. I will create one subnet for one VPC, correct? Because we have to go with the demo only. So I'm not going to go into much complexity or much kind of subnet, correct? Our purpose of the demo will be fulfilled with only one subnet. So I'm creating as a one subnet named as a public subnet and then VPC one. That will be our name. And availability zone, I will, as usual, I will select episode 1A. If we had the multiple subnets, we will be selecting episode 1A, B, and C to make our applications highly available. Correct. So I'll be selecting episode 1A. And then the CIDR for this, I will give it as 1.0/16 for this my subnet. So I will change it here 1.0/16. So sorry, rather than /16, I will do the 24 so that 256 IP address will be there. Correct. So 10.0.1.0/24, sorry, one subnet for this particular VPC has been created. Sorry, will be created. So just create subnet. Let's create one more subnet. That will be for the second VPC. I will give the name public, public subnet VPC 2. And the availability zone, as usual, we will keep it episode 1A. Then we have to pass the CIDR for our subnet. So I will give it as 11.0 and this one we will mark it as 24 and 1.0/24 so that 256 IP addresses will be there according to your VPC configuration card. Let me click on the create subnet. So yeah, till the time you can see there are two subnets has been created. Let me scroll it. Yeah, public subnet VPC 1, public subnet VPC 2. These two subnets has been created. We have just given the name public. Right now, it's not the public. To make the, and here we were talking about the public EC2 instances, correct? So to make our subnet public, we will have to create the internet gateway as well, correct? And that needs to be associated with our VPC. And then we will mention it in the route table. So we have the route table. Now we want need to connect this internet, create this internet gateway as well. So let me create the internet gateway. And this one I will give the IGW VPC 1, correct? Let me create. And right now it's in the detached mode. So I will have to attach this to VPC 1 as well. So let me click on the attach to VPC and I will be selecting the VPC 1 here. Attach internet gateway. I will be creating one more internet gateway to attach with the second VPC. So I will give the IGW VPC 2. That will be the name for IGW. Right, we are just creating all this infrastructure. If you understand the VPC public subnet EC2 instances, we will create later on. But we are doing, we are creating every resources for one VPC, correct? VPC 1, then IGW 1, then the route table 1, then the sub public subnet 1. And in the similar way, we are replicating the infra for the second one as well. Okay. So IGW VPC 2, we will have to attach this one as well with the second VPC. So let's select this VPC 2, attach internet gateway. So now we will have to mention it in the route table so that your route table becomes the public one and then the subnet association we will do with that. So let's get into the route VPC 1. And here to make this route as a public, what we will do, we will get into the edit routes, click on the add route. And here we will select for the internet gateway, we will make it the CIDR as a 00 so that any request can go to the internet up to the 00, correct? And then we will select the internet gateway. Here we will select the internet gateway which is associated with the VPC 1. You can see that option is only coming here as well, correct? So let's get into because the route table was in the part of the VPC 1. That's why we had this IG1 only. Save changes. In the similar way, now we will do here subnet association as well. So this is the route VPC for this is the for the VPC 1. So we will select the subnet, the one subnet which we have created in the VPC 1. So let's do the subnet association at the same time as well. So click on the edit subnet, public subnet VPC 1. Let's select and save associations. So that has been implemented. So now this your this subnet has been become your public subnet, correct? Based on the route. So based on the 00 and the internet gateway, it has been become the public subnet now. So in the similar way, we will do for the second route table as well. Let me get into the second one. Let's edit the route, add route, then click on the 00. And this is for the internet gateway only, correct? So that any of the request can come to the 00. That is your destination. Let's select the internet gateway. And then in the IGW, we will see that IGW VPC2 is coming there. It's being populated. So we will select the same. Why is it populating the only one? Because your route table is associated with the VPC2 and your internet gateway, the one is also associated with the second VPC only. Correct. Every internet gateway is associated with one of the VPC. That's why only one is being populated based on your route table configurations. Save changes. So now we have the second route table as well associated with the internet. Let's get into the subnet association and click on the edit subnet. Let's do the public subnet VPC2 save association. So now we have all these setups done. We have this VPC created, VPC1, VPC2, we have public subnet 1, public subnet 2. Now we need to create the EC2 instances in these two subnets, correct? So we will be creating one EC2 instance and the second EC2 instance in these two different VPC. So let's get into the VPC EC2 console. And here I will be creating two EC2 instances, correct? So I will be creating one in the one VPC and second in the second VPC. So let me call it as a public EC2 and then the VPC1. That will be the name. I'll be creating Linux T2 micro with pre-tire eligibility. So I'm going with the same Linux MI, Linux image. Keep here. I'll be selecting the one, or we can create the different one as well. So let me do create the new key pair here. I will give the name key VPC1. Let's click on the create key pair, key VPC1. And I will have to save this as well. So I'm just saving it in the download section only. So key VPC1, save. That has been downloaded, correct? You can see the private key has been downloaded at my local system and public is associated with this one. Now let's get into the network setting, do the edit. I will be selecting the VPC1 here because we want to deploy first EC2 instance in the VPC1, and the subnet has been auto selected because there is only one option. We have created only one subnet, correct? So public subnet VPC1 is there. Auto assign public IP. Yes, we require the public EC2 instance. So we will select it as enabled to make it to have a public IP address for this particular server. Then security group. I will just give the name PC2 SG that I'm giving the name, and here also I will mark that as a VPC1. That will be our security groups. Launch wizard. We will just give it. Sorry. Yeah, launch wizard, this one description, I will just remove and mark it as SG. It's type of SSH, and we will add one more HTTP request here so that we can see that request or the user data will be mentioning later on, correct? So we can see that what's the message is being printed over the console, correct? So HTTP with the port 80 and source type anywhere. And then let's get into the advanced detail, and we will use the user data here so that we can print the message. So for the user data, I will be copying from the my PPT. So let me select this one. And here in the user data, I will just print the message, welcome to VPC1 EC2 instance, correct? So that we can segregate that in the whether the request is coming from the VPC1 or the VPC2. So right now we are doing all the connections. We are configuring everything from the VPC1 only, correct? You can see that in the network configuration, we had selected the VPC1. So I will be printing message VPC1 EC2 instance, correct? Let me click on the launch instance. And meanwhile, this is being launched. Let's create one more EC2 instance in the second VPC, correct? Let me get into the. I will just try to copy the same name with the modified one. So I will give the same name. Control C. VPC2, public EC2, VPC2. the same AMI, I will be selecting t2.micro, and I will create one more key pair here that I will call it key VPC2. Let's create the key pair. It will be downloaded to your local system. Just select save. Network settings. Let's select the second VPC as well here, and that will be our VPC2. Correct. And accordingly, your subnet has been selected because there is only one public subnet which we have created. Auto assign public IP. Yes, we will do the enable. Security group. I will be creating one more here, and for that I will keep the name. What's the name we want to create? We will be calling it EC2SG and VPC2. That I will give the name. The description I will just mark it as SC. That's the description. Just correct. Then we will add more security group rule here, in the similar way what we did for the first one, HTTP, and then the anywhere, so that we can print the message. Correct. Let's get into the advanced details. I hope we did the enable for the VPC IP address. Yes, enable. Let's get into the user data section and select the same. So we will be using the same user data with the different message now. So here I will print, we will come to EC2 VPC to EC2 instance, correct? VPC to EC2 instance. That should be printed. Let me click on the launch instance. And here, if we refresh here, I will click on the public IP address here, and you will see that it will print that particular message. So let's get into the section here. Let me remove the HTTPS, and it will be HTTP. You can see the message, welcome to VPC1 EC2 instance. In the similar way, we will see the second EC2 instance message as well. So this is the public EC2 VPC2. Let me click on the instance ID. Let's click on the open address. Let's click in the browser. Let me remove the HTTPS. S will be removed because we are not using the secured one, correct? So HTTPS, and it should print the same message. Okay, what happened? Welcome to VPC to EC2 instance. It took time, correct? Welcome to VPC to EC2 instance. So till now, what we have achieved, we have deployed VPC1, VPC2. We have deployed public subnet 1, public subnet 1. In these two VPC, we have deployed public EC2 instance. In these two public subnets as well. Now we have to make the communication between these two. So what I want, when I will do the curl from the EC2 one for the second VPC, second EC2 instance, it should show me the message of this message which is being populated on the second server, correct? And in the similar way, I will try to check the response from which is coming from the EC2 one on the VC2 2, correct? So that we want to check. So let me get into our CMD. And let me stop my video for 1 second. Back to the video. So till now, what we have done, we have configured all the things, correct? So I was opening the CMD. So let me get into the CMD, open command prompt. Let's get into the CD download sections because we have the key pair established there only, correct? LS will not work because it's the CMD, Windows, correct? It's not the Linux. Now I will do the SSH in my first machine. SSH I, and the name we have given key VPC 1.pam, and then the EC2 user at the rate IP address of the first server, correct? So let me get into the server instances. Just refresh. Let's get into the VPC1. You will see the let's click on the connect. You will see the command as well here. SSH-key VPC1.pam EC2 user and the IP address. So I will be just using this IP address. I will just copy it from here. Let's get into the here. Click on the yes. It asks for authentication. You did the yes, correct. Now from here, if you want to do the curl for the second EC2 instance IP address, correct. So what was the IP address for the second one? Welcome to VPC EC2 instance. This is the IP, correct. So let's copy this. Do the curl HTTP. Welcome to VPC to EC2 instance. Back to the video. So here I was trying with the public IP address. So rather than the public, we have to test it with the private one because we want to make the private communication between these two, correct? So I will just try with the private IP address of the second EC2 instance, which is present in the second VPC. So just do the curl, and you will see that no communication will happen between these two, correct? So when you are trying with the private IP address, it will not show you the communication between these two. With the public window, but we will not be using the public IP address every time, correct? We will go with the public private communication data. We will not be exposing the public domain to everyone, correct? So for that, I will just now establish trying. We will try to establish the communication between these two servers. Also, let's get into the VPC peering section, and we will see that after that it will start the working. Right. So I'm just uh, drop killing this process. I have done that process has been killed. Now let's get into the VPC peering sections. So let me get into the VPC. Let me go for the peering connections. Create peering connection, and here I will just give the name peering VPC 1, VPC 2. Select VPC which will make the request. So I'm making a request from VPC 1 to VPC 2, correct? VPC ID acceptor, which who will accept, VPC 2 will accept, correct? So I'm making the connection between from VPC 1 to VPC 2, and the name will be this one, create peering connection. You will see peering 1 VPC 2 has been requested. Now click on the action section, and from here you can accept the request. So just click on the accept request. You will see VPC 1 is the requester, VPC 2 is the acceptor one. So let's click on the accept request. So peering connection has been established. Now, if you can see the message as well, it says to send and receive traffic across the VPC peering connection, you must add a route to the peered VPC in one or more of the VPC route tables, correct? So now we will have to modify our route tables as well. So let's get into the route table section here. And here in the routes, we will change the communication. Sorry, change the routes. So let's get into the route section. And this is the route VPC 1. So I will click on the edit routes. Then here I will do the I will mark the destination of the second VPC, correct? So this is for the first one. And what we had did, I had just copied the second, like for the second VPC, I had marked as 11, correct? That was the CIDR we had mentioned. Let's check as well. Let me get into the VPC. Let's click on the VPC section. And if you can see the CIDR, that was 11.00/16, correct? So that will be our CIDR for the destination. And let's select here the peering connection. Peering. And what was the peering connection that we had created? Peering 1 to 11.00/16, correct? That in the first route. Now let's get into the second route, and we will establish the communication between here as well. So let's select the route, and here we will mention this 10.00/16, the CIDR for the first one. So this one will become now 10.00/16, correct? And then here we will select the peering connection, the same peering connection what we have created, save changes. So now we have established the peering connection between these two. According to the diagram, VPC1 in the route table, we have established the communication between these two. After creating the VPC, we have accepted the request from one VPC to second VPC, and now it should work. So now let's do here curl and the private IP address of the second server. You can see it is able to print the welcome to VPC2 EC2 instance. In the similar way, if we can connect the second as well. So let me go to the CD downloads. We will check it for the second server as well. Second to the first one, correct? So I will do the SSH-I and the key VPC2, and then okay, it has been PowerShell. Let me do the duplicate of this duplicate tab only. CD downloads. SSH hyphen I key VPC2 dot pam, then the EC2 user at the rate, and the public IP address of this second EC2 instance, correct? Public EC2 VPC2. So I will just try to connect it here. So let's click curl, and here I will try to, this is the second server, correct? We have connected. Now I will try to get into the first server. We will try to check the message from the first server. So let me get into the instances. Let me get into the public EC2 VPC1. This one is the first server, and we will select the private IP address. We will try to communicate to the first one. We can see the message, welcome to BBC1 AC2 instance, correct? So this is how you can establish the communication between these two application server or the RDS. Just suppose that on first server you have the application running here, and on the second server you have your database running, correct? And you want to make the communication between your application and the database. So with the API call, you can make the communication between these two, and for that you will have to establish the peering connections as well, correct? So I hope you like the video, and in next video we will be talking about the transit gateway and other concepts of the VPC. So till the time, thank you, bye bye.